Rev up your engines! Donovan Den Oot says, Scotty, I got 96 V6 Camry, 89,000 miles. Every time when I start it, it doesn't want to go into second gear. After 7 or 8 minutes, everything goes back to normal. Old age, it's a 96. It's old as the hills, right? That's old. And it's got to warm up in order to do it. Now, it's so old. Changing the fluid can be kind of an iffy thing. What I would advise you would be to drain out 1 quart of fluid, just 1 quart. You can get a suction device, stick it in a dipstick and suck out quart. Put a quart in of the Lucas anti-slip additive and see what happens. It might help it. Might make it work better. If not, just live with it. That age, things are goofy inside, worn. And if you did change the filter and fluid, it might be so bad that it will slip when you put it in. So I wouldn't do that on something that old. Now, if you wanted to try what guys used to do, it's also worth a try. If you want to go through the bother, you can take the pan off the transmission, but save the oil that comes off in a clean container. Change the filter, just the filter. Then put the old fluid back in, see what happens. Sometimes that helps. A. Thompson said, Scotty, what are your thoughts about Kia Stingers? They're cool looking and they're fast, but they don't hold up over time. But Kias have always had a problem with their engines and their transmissions. They're not something that's going to last like a Toyota or a Honda. That's just how Kias are. Look at all the recalls they have all the time. Hundreds of thousands, millions of them recalled. Now they got ones that are starting on fire. I am not a fan. They look good and they're zippy. That's how they sell them, but they aren't that well made. Like they say, don't judge a book by a cover. Cute looking book cover, but it's what's inside that matters, and the inside of Kias aren't that great. Suar says, how many times can I use head gasket sealant? How do I know if I need a new engine or just fix the head gasket? 2014 Prius, 124,000 miles. Okay, well, I would basically only try the sealer once. I use the bar sealers. I get them at AutoZone's, O'Reilly. It's like $20 for a bottle of stuff, and if it works, great. Now, I have fixed Priuses with those sealers, but here's the problem with the Priuses. The Priuses have an Atkinson cycle engine. Hardly anyone works on those. And I've had people with them, and they wanted to get them physically fixed. They called a Toyota dealer, and to fix the head gasket leak, they were telling them it's going to be $3,000 to $5,000 because hardly anybody works on them, right? Now, you can't tell whether you need a head gasket or a new engine until you take it apart. You can do a test to see, is it leaking? It's very simple. It's a head gasket leak test. I have a video, how can you tell if your head gasket's blown? Scotty, watch that, show you how to test. It's a 5-minute test, right? But it shows that it's leaking inside. You don't know if the head gasket's blown, if the head's cracked, if the block's cracked. You won't have to take the engine apart. Then it's too late. It costs so much money. Pray the sealer works on your Prius. It's a known problem. They do blow head gaskets on those older ones, and it is a fortune to replace them when they do go bad. But sometimes a sealer will last for years. Ty's Gaming says, Scotty, what do you think of a 93 Chevy S10 with 4.3 V6, last of square bodies, a good, reliable, small truck? Well, yeah, back in the day they were, right? But the problem is, it's a 4.3 V6, and that was one of the weaker engines that GM made. Have a mechanic like me do a few tests, do compression tests on the engine, run his data to see what kind of shape the engine is. They were good in the day, but I mean, you're talking about a 93, a 30-year-old vehicle. 30-year-old vehicles can have a lot of problems. And of course, to start from square one, if it's up north and the frame is rusted, don't even buy it. It's worth nothing if it's rotting away. Damien, Scotty, hope you're doing great. What are your thoughts on a Land Rover or Land Cruiser? Which is better? What do you think? The Toyota Land Cruiser by far. Land Rovers are endless money pits. Way back in the day, the British copied the American Jeeps, and they were pretty good little vehicles, little tiny 4-cylinder engines. Then they got bigger and bigger and bigger, and then they got crappier and crappier and crappier. They're one of the biggest endless money pits vehicles in the world. They're for rich people who have money to show off. I mean, hey, the Queen used to ride around in one in England, and her husband. I mean, it's for rich people. It's not for normal people. The Land Cruisers can run and run and run and have no problems. The Land Rovers, next question is Rudy Getz. He says, do you recommend top-tier gas, or is any local gas good enough with additives? Thanks. The funny thing is, when you look at the whole situation, most areas, there's only one place that actually makes the gas that refines it. Then theoretically, the other companies buy it, put their additives in, and away you go. There's all kinds of laws for gasoline sold, at least in the United States. Doesn't really matter where you buy it. You know, I'd stick to quality stations. I wouldn't go to some off-brand convenience store in the middle of nowhere. Who knows how old their gas is if they check it for water in their tanks. When I was a kid, my father's Texaco gas station, we had this gigantic long wooden stick, and we'd put this little green stuff on the bottom 4 inches, stick it in, and if that changed color, that meant it was full of water. It had to be pumped out. Cheap stations don't check for that stuff, so stick to the regular ones, but it doesn't really matter. Next question. Is an AGM battery worth double the price of an SLA battery if the SLA is $40 and the AMG is $80? Well, now, let me tell you something. There's no batteries that cheap anymore. The last time I looked, the SLA battery around here was like $140 and the AGMs were $200-something. Now, the AGM are the best. They will last the longest. You're not going to save anything one way or the other. If you buy the SLA, it won't last as long. But will the AGM last, 40, 50% longer? Probably not. They're both good batteries. But truthfully, though, if your car did come with an AGM absorbed glass mat battery, replace it with one, too. It was made for high quality. Keep the same thing in it. RJ10 said, we just bought a brand new 2023 Subaru Crosstrek. We listened to Scotty. We're going to try to get 15 years out of her. Well, it shouldn't be that hard as long as you take care of it. The main thing about that, those are well-made vehicles, those Crosstreks. A guy brought me one of the new ones that was the fancy off-road one. It was a really solid built vehicle. He bought it, and he does take it off-road. He goes to Moab, Utah, and goes on those old dirt roads, the old mining roads up and down the mountains, and they can last a long time. Just change the oil every 5,000 miles with full synthetic oil. Take care of the vehicle, and it should last you a really long time. Haji says, do you resell your extra bikes and tools? Do you keep them? I just give them away. Grandkids, they ride around on them. My grandson's got a bunch of my old tools he uses for working on cars. There's a lot of people around. I give them free electric bikes, free tools. What the heck? People come visit me a lot of times if they want a scan tool. I got boxes of scan tools, and I'll just give them a scan tool when they visit me in Rhode Island because I got a whole bunch of them the company sent me. I give away for free. I don't sell anything. I just give them away. Moses says, I need help with my stabilizer bar. It makes a clicking sound in the rear of my Toyota Camry. Okay, the first thing about stabilizer bars are the things that normally wear out is there's the end links where they bolt on. They often wear out, and they just bolt on and off the end. So you can buy those and replace them, right? The other thing is the bushings can go bad. Then you take the brackets off, you put new bushings in, and bolt it back on. Unless you've been in a wreck, the bars are always okay. They don't do anything. They're just solid metal. You get in a wreck, they can get bent and do stuff. It's been wrecked. Look at it. It might be bent, and then it's not going to line. It's always going to click. But usually it's the end stabilizer bolts or the bushings inside, and you can easily replace that stuff yourself. Astro says, Scotty, I got a leaky wheel cylinder in my 97K 1500. Do I need to fix it? Well, you sure do, because the wheel cylinders leak. The brake fluid then just gets onto your brake shoes there. If it's a wheel cylinder, it's got shoes. The shoes are going to get wet. They're not going to work that well. It will contaminate everything, but it's also, as strange as it sounds, a fire hazard. Because if it's really leaking and they get all wet with the fluid and you slam on the brakes, it gets hot enough, it can start stuff on fire. So yes, you want to fix it now. Because you fix it now, you can get away with a lot cheaper than fixed. And if it locks up and then everything goes, it can also ruin the wheel bearing there. The brake fluid doesn't go with bearings, and then it'll ruin the bearings. Change it now for safety and to save yourself money for later on so it doesn't break a bunch of other stuff. Well, here's the most satisfying cars. According to Consumer Reports, some I agree, some I don't, but satisfaction is a relative term, Oh, you might be real satisfied with the first 5 seconds, but as they pick them, electric vehicle, they pick the Rivian R1T. Now, they say that the people who have bought them so far have been the most satisfied with them. Well, they've only sold a few thousand of the things, so we'll see what happens as time goes on if the company even continues to exist. But, for electric vehicles, they're seen as the most satisfied. Now, the hybrid cars make more sense. They picked the Toyota Camry hybrid, and it makes total sense. They've been making those for over a decade, and they're excellent vehicles, phenomenal gas mileage. They're a Toyota Camry. They can run forever. Guy brought me one the other day. It was getting 47 miles a gallon in it, so I can understand that one. And for hybrid SUVs, it's the Toyota RAV4 Prime. It makes total sense, too. You can plug it in, drive it a while. It's a RAV4. People love them. They want SUVs. They don't mind the price. They're relatively expensive. Last guy I saw buy one, he paid $54,000 for it, so they're not giving them away. But people like them. And for compact cars, the top one they picked was the Zoom Zoom Mazda 3. Now, of course, kids are nuts about the Civics and stuff, but they sell a lot of Mazda 3s. They're a lower priced car, and I gotta say, the Mazdas are always fun to drive. The Zoom Zoom is right. Now, maybe they won't hold up as long as Toyotas, Hondas, but this is the people who are satisfied the most when they bought them new. And for mid-size life, large cars, I picked the Toyota Camry. That's a no-brainer. And for sporty cars, I picked a Chevy Corvette. Okay, everyone knows the new mid-engine ones had all kinds of problems, but people like the way they look. They're fun to drive when they're not breaking down. And of course, basically, it's a toy for most people. It's a two-seater. Only a limited market of people are going to buy two-seater cars. And they're the happiest with them, at least when they just bought them. We'll see what it's like 5-10 years from now. But as it stands now, that's the most popular sporty car. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.